Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Gold and silver are nervous. Yes, whoever thought that precious metals could have feelings, but in this case, they do. I'll explain in a moment. Why? Well, because there's an important meeting happening now, and there's going to be a report on it on Friday. And so let's talk about it. Yeah, I figured we'd talk about it rather than explore it. I know some people don't like it when I say explore. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below about that. Should I continue using the Let's Explore or ditch it? I hope you do enjoy videos where I talk about precious metals and the news. This is what we do here on the channel, as among other things. A variety of different content related to precious metals, so I hope you will consider pressing gently that thumbs up button. It won't kill you. And it won't strike back if you do it gently. And also consider subscribing to the channel. And nonetheless, let's take a look here. Gold and silver, they're up a little bit today, marginally. And that means they're nervous. Why? Well, the dollar's up a little bit too. But I think precious metal investors are really the nervous Nellies here, not the metals themselves. They are inert. They don't have feelings, but the markets surely do. There's a lot of emotion in the markets. So that nervousness does translate with these upticks in the movement of prices. Even though marginal, they are up slightly. Let's talk about it from an article here from CNBC. Gold steadies as the dollar stalls a bit, focusing on the Jackson Hole event. This is originally reported from Reuters. Gold steadied on Wednesday as the dollar gave up some gains from earlier in the session, while investors await the Jackson Hole central bankers event for clues on rate hikes. What will happen? Because I know a rate hike is coming next month, or likely something is going to be happening. I think there's going to be another potentially 3/4 point rate hike. That's my prediction. Let me know what you think. Spot gold was up to $17.51 and 85 cents per ounce by around this time as I record this video. It rose as much as 1% in the previous session. U.S. gold futures rose to $1,765.50. So you can see the futures are up, and I think this is one of those cases where if precious metals dealers are quoting futures prices, this is an example of them being up more than the actual spot price. Helping gold, it does help gold reverse some of the initial declines. The dollar stalled around the 108.6 level after climbing as high as 109.112 earlier in the session. A stronger dollar tends to pull appetite or dull the appetite for gold among overseas buyers. And the market is relatively quiet. Metal traders are waiting to see what comes out of the Jackson Hole meet and want to know more about the Fed's rate hike path, said Bob Habercorn, senior market strategist at RJO Futures. Market participants await U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's speech at the Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium on Friday. The speech should throw some light on the Fed's monetary policy tightening path. Gold tends to perform poorly if rates rise, as it yields no interest. That's right. I think that's actually an attractive attribute of gold, is that it doesn't yield any interest. It is what it is. It's a stable asset. Whether gold breaks 1730 or not may well depend on what Powell has to say, as well as whether traders are in the mood to listen. Should he stick to his colleague's hawkish script? Craig Earlham, senior market analyst at Oanda, wrote in a note. Investors also await estimates for U.S. second quarter gross domestic product and July consumer spending data due later this week. And so, yes, indeed, a silver spot fell 0.7% to $19.03 per ounce, but it's up a little bit on the day. A mix of negative factors, including fear of recession, rising interest rates, and a strong dollar, hit the price of industrial metal hard, said Carlo Alberto de Casa, external analyst for Kinesis Money. And platinum fell a little bit too, but palladium rose. So that's just it. There is industrial factors are what's really weighing on silver, I believe. And this is why we have the gold to silver ratio up to almost getting closer to an all-time high. 91.67. That's a wide gap because silver has a dual role. And I believe now, based off of the demand for silver, just over half of it has industrial demand, and the rest of it is things like jewelry and precious metal bars, bullion products. But nonetheless, I believe that industrial demand is weighing the most on the price. And so when the dollar is strong, like it is now, gold gets hit, silver gets hit harder. And plus, when you consider what's happening with supply chain issues, which, by the way, you would think by now that stuff would be patching up. And to some extent it is for the semiconductor industry. But there's still other areas where silver has not rebounded like we think it should. And so therefore, it's still going to be held relatively in low esteem in the industrial sector. But I believe in the end, gold and silver will definitely come to do what they have done for thousands of years, and that's preserve our wealth. In this recessionary environment and inflationary environment, it's going to take a little bit of time. But history is a guide. We've seen this before. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens. I do believe that the Fed will raise rates to at least 0.75 of a percentage point. And their hand is almost forced in that area, given the previous unemployment numbers, better than expected, at least by their measures. We know that if we pick those apart, we look at the U6 and U3 numbers and the types of jobs. We understand that most of those are service jobs, and the economy and a lot of Americans are hurting right now because of these prices. People have to work in order to make ends meet. A lot of them are taking on second jobs, maybe even third jobs, and some of those are in the service industry. So those are counted separately. From what I understand, at least that's how they are counted. But nonetheless, the precious metals will continue to react to news on a daily basis, one way or the other. And I know I do talk about it from time to time. I do like to have videos where I break up and talk about other things. I have 2 separate playlists called Precious Metals Treasures that have been found. I like to talk about stuff like that. I also talk about precious metal crimes, which is always an interesting subject to talk about, as well as talking about news from the United States Mint and specific types of gold and silver coins and bars and rounds. But talking about the price of gold and silver is something this channel is about as well too. And the daily movement of prices, I know a lot of people comment and say, well, I'm not so worried about what happens day to day with the price of gold and silver. And I'm not either, but I think it's good to report on it to kind of see how these metals move. The psychology of the marketplace is quite fascinating and it's interesting, but that should not discourage you from buying and holding precious metals. It should also encourage you that in the long run, even though if the prices, and we've seen mostly kind of a bear market with silver, it seems, silver has not really lived up to its inflation hedge status over the past couple of years. We did see it kind of break out towards the middle of 2020 and then in the fall, but since then it's kind of just gone down. So it's going to take a little bit of time for silver. And gold really as well too. It topped out at over $2,050 an ounce in about August of 2020, and one other time that it reached near that territory since then. But other than that, it's kind of come off of its highs as well too. And this is an area where we need to be patient, persevere through these times, and hold on. This is why I'm a proponent of holding cash on hand in the banking system, but also have it in physical form. Even though it's depreciating every day, it's good to have some for those emergencies so that you don't have to sell your precious metals in times of crisis yet, because sooner or later, if it gets really bad, that's what your precious metals are for. Otherwise, acquire and accumulate, but also have cash on hand as well too. So very interesting news here. Again, we were seeing the markets move. What are the biggest drivers of the price of gold and silver? Well, the biggest driver is the dollar index. How strong is the dollar compared to the other currencies out there? It's the strongest, and it keeps rising, it seems like. At 108.6, it's a good number. even though and that's a different measure, by the way, than its value, losing value. You have to separate those two. There's that. Then you have the bond yields. That's another measure. And then you have other economic sentiment, interest rates hiking or falling interest rates. And there's other factors. There's so many different factors that can move the price of gold and silver one way or the other. And so the best thing we can do is, yes, it's fun to kind of watch the psychology of the markets, look at technical analysis. But in the end, my message to you all is to hold at the very most. And if you can buy when the prices dip, it's a good idea to do so. And if you have to sell, well, so be it. But I hope you can time those sales so that you don't lose out on your precious metals, because that's the last thing you want, is because that's not why we stack. We don't stack to lose money. We stack to preserve wealth. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate this video. That means press that thumbs up button gently, share it on different social media platforms or in your community tab. Appreciate everybody. Comment and subscribe.